Imagine owning more prime real estate than almost any company on Earth. More locations than Starbucks, more retail land than most national governments manage, and telling the public you're in the business of selling burgers for $1. That's not a hypothetical. That's McDonald's. It serves roughly 69 million customers a day across more than 40,000 locations in over 100 countries. But the burgers, the fries, the dollar menu, that's not actually where most of the money comes from. The real business is hiding in plain sight, and it took one man's insight decades ago in a handful of quiet financial meetings to turn a hamburger stand into one of the largest owners of commercial real estate in the world. The story starts small. In 1940, brothers Richard and Morris McDonald opened a drive-in restaurant in San Bernardino, California, selling barbecue off a broad menu with car hop service, like dozens of other drive-ins at the time. By 1948, frustrated with slow service and high overhead, they closed the restaurant, fired the car hops, and reopened with something new. A menu slashed down to burgers, fries, and shakes, a kitchen redesigned like an assembly line, and a speedy service system that could get food into a customer's hands in 30 seconds instead of 30 minutes. It was fast food before the phrase existed, and it worked. Their single restaurant was soon making more money than most restaurant owners of the era could imagine, and other operators started traveling to San Bernardino just to study how they did it. In 1954, a traveling salesman named Ray Kroc, who sold milkshake mixing machines, got curious about why one small restaurant in California kept ordering 8 multi-mixers at once, enough to make 40 shakes at a time. He flew out to see it for himself, watched the lines, watched the system, and saw an opportunity the brothers hadn't fully chased, franchising it nationwide. He convinced them to let him become their franchise agent, opened his own demonstration restaurant in Des Plaines, Illinois in 1955, and by the late 1950s, McDonald's restaurants were opening across the country under his direction. But there was a problem. The franchise fees Kroc was collecting were small, often just a modest percentage of sales. And franchisees, once established, sometimes drifted from the standards or fell behind on payments, and there was little Kroc could do about it. Franchising the recipe was working. Franchising the money reliably was not. That's when Kroc's financial advisor, a former banker named Harry Sunborn, spotted something almost nobody else in the restaurant business had thought to exploit. Instead of just licensing the McDonald's name and system, the company could buy or lease the land under each new restaurant itself, put up the building, and then lease the entire property back to the franchisee at a markup, with rent tied to a percentage of their monthly sales. Franchisees weren't just buying a business anymore. They were becoming tenants. And tenants, unlike casual franchisees, pay their rent on time, every month without fail. Because if they don't, they lose the restaurant standing on that land. Sonneborn is remembered for putting it in stark terms to colleagues. McDonald's, he said, was not really in the food business. It was in the real estate business, and the burgers were simply the mechanism that made sure the rent got collected reliably every single month for decades. In 1956, the company formalized this into a dedicated real estate subsidiary, Franchise Realty Corporation, and the model was set. From that point on, McDonald's wasn't just selling a franchise. It was quietly assembling one of the largest privately held property portfolios on the planet, one drive-in lot at a time. By 1961, Kroc bought out the McDonald brothers entirely for $2.7 million, taking full control of the name and the system they had invented. According to the brothers, Kroc had also verbally promised them an ongoing 1% royalty on future sales, a promise that, notoriously, was never put in writing and was never honored. Kroc even later opened a competing restaurant directly across the street from the brothers' original location and pressured them to stop using their own name on their own hometown restaurant museum. The founders of the entire concept walked away from the company that would become a global empire, while Kroc and Sonneborn built the real estate machine that would define it. Today, that machine looks like this. Roughly 93% of McDonald's restaurants worldwide are run by independent franchisees, not the corporation itself. Those franchisees pay an upfront fee, an ongoing royalty of around 4% of sales, and This is the part most customers never think about. Rent, which is often the highest of a fixed base amount or a percentage of gross sales, sometimes reaching into the mid-teens. In most cases, McDonald's Corporation owns or holds long-term leases on the land in the building and charges the franchisee for the privilege of operating there. That rental income, not hamburger sales, has become the true engine of the company's profits. A meaningful majority of McDonald's operating income comes from rent and royalties collected from its own franchisees, not from flipping burgers over a grill. The real estate holdings themselves are staggering. McDonald's Corporation is routinely cited among the largest owners of commercial real estate on Earth, with property assets valued in the tens of billions of dollars. A portfolio that would make many dedicated real estate investment trusts jealous, built one drive-through lot at a time, hiding behind a menu board. Analysts on Wall Street have long joked that when they evaluate McDonald's, they sometimes pay as much attention to its property appraisals as to its burger sales figures. Here's what makes this such an unusual boardroom decision. Sonneborn's insight wasn't a new recipe, a new machine, or a new flavor. It was a decision about what kind of company McDonald's was actually going to be. And it was made quietly, in financial meetings, years before most customers, or even most franchisees, fully understood what was happening. Every burger sold wasn't really the product. It was proof that a tenant was still in business, still generating foot traffic, and still able to make next month's rent. This is also why McDonald's can weather price wars, ingredient cost spikes, and shifting fast food trends better than almost any competitor that doesn't own its real estate. Chains that only collect a thin royalty and nothing more are far more exposed when franchisees struggle. Even if a franchisee's burger margins get squeezed, the rent still comes due, and the corporation still gets paid first, whether the burgers sell well that month or not. The genius of the model is that it doesn't actually require McDonald's to serve the best burger in town. It just requires the restaurant to keep its doors open long enough to keep paying rent on some of the most valuable retail corners in the world. So the next time you drive past a McDonald's on a corner lot in a city center or just off a highway exit, remember what you're actually looking at. It's not primarily a kitchen. It's a rent check, dressed up as a hamburger stand, collecting from a tenant every single month. A business model so quiet, so unglamorous, that most people who've eaten there 1,000 times still have no idea it's the real reason the company is worth more than most banks. That's the pattern behind the businesses that make the most money without anyone noticing. It's rarely the product on the menu. It's usually the decision, made once in a boardroom, about what the company would actually own.